This is Lysha Holmes of Key Recruitment, and I'm delighted to welcome today Liz Connor of Logjec Recruitment and Business Coach. Hello to you, Liz. How are you?
Hi, Lysha. Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Not very welcome. So, for those in our audience who are not yet familiar with who you are and what you do, would you like to give us an overview as to what you do?
Sure. So my name's Liz Connor. I am the director and founder of Logjec Recruitment. Founded the business 3.5 years ago now, and we are super niche. So that's really fundamentally what the business is sort of grounded on, being very niche in a very specific market, and sort of getting a reputation within it, living and breathing it, and really sort of owning it really, and just getting very knowledgeable in that space and confident, and to also reduce the sort of numbers game or cold calling style. So that's really, our ethos is it's all sort of attraction marketing and being known and really capitalizing on personal brand. And then sort of as a branch off from that, I was really quite passionate to introduce this sort of model and style to other people. So I launched the coaching business throughout the pandemic. It just felt like the right time to really, and it's all about showing other recruiters, specifically it is aimed at recruiters that want to break free and set up on their own, and but could really, really benefit some support and some help, so some coaching. But again, who I can help is really people that want to really embrace the niche. So we would map all that out, and I would hopefully impart a lot of the tricks and tips that I've sort of created all around my recruitment business as well.
Because as you say on your profile, you've walked, so we'll definitely come on to the business coaching side. So just sort of going back a step, why did you decide to go into such a super niche? And do you want to explain a little bit about your niche and why you felt that was
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, it just recruitment, it's a minefield. It's a tricky job as it is. So for me, it just to strip it back and to simplify things really felt the natural path. And it also, as I've sort of alluded to, it sort of reduces this numbers game, which I don't really sign up to. So for me, really sort of identifying a niche and a space or a market, however you want to see it, enables you to really sort of get knowledgeable within it, and that really builds confidence. Because if you're not really naturally confident, like me in a lot of ways, and a bit of an introvert, then you can break down so many more barriers and have so much more success if you have the confidence in the space that you recruit, and that you understand the candidates inside out, you understand the skills, you understand the market, and it can just give you just a bit of an edge as well. And the way sort of marketing is now, and being known and sort of becoming attached to a market, to a skill set within a community, within an arena, that's really powerful. And I've just found that a much more desirable business development strategy as well. And so it's just worked, and I've just really ran with it, and it works really well. It just gives you that really clear identity, and I don't think I would do it any other way now.
No, I agree with you, and I think it's about having credibility in that knowledge, which it does take time to build up that, but that's where
it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, that's really true. That's something I think you've got to swallow a bit and be ready for the long haul, because it's not an overnight, a quick hit, a transactional, hit lucky, blast with, and sort of throw everything that you've got and see what sticks. It's really not like that at all. But what you find is, over a period of time, it starts to compound, almost like a compound effect, and then it all starts sort of coming back to you, and all the effort that you've made does come back to you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you've just alluded to the fact that you didn't want to be like other recruiters who you maybe are seen as more transactional, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I wrote a blog years ago about, I think it was about 2014, about where did I see the market going over the next 10 years, and one of the things I said was that you need to be this kind of sniper in your market, and you need to know your vertical inside out. It's sort of the inch wide, mile deep kind of strategy. And I know the benefit of that, but why do you think, from a candidate perspective, why does that journey look better with someone that is so niche? And in terms of things like crossover of skill sets, I mean, I don't know whether that works in iTrent, which I know is your niche. Can people transfer across? And if so, being so niche, does that mean you might miss out on people doing that?
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, so I recruit. My niche is specific to it's actually a HR and payroll system, and we focus quite specifically on the system side of it, because the HR and the payroll side is a bit more generic, whereas the systems aspect is very specific.
Yeah.
And it covers around 6 skill sets or so on the permanent side, and then we cover consultancy as well. But yeah, I mean, in terms of a huge benefit, I have found that as you build your relationships with your candidates, obviously, that you look to repeat place people. You actually work with them. It's a bit more of a journey, and you actually support them throughout their career path. And
Definitely.
so they will just come straight back to you because you've invested so much time in them, and you can, because of you've done all that legwork. We have like a really thorough process where we'll be, speaking to our candidates for a number of hours over the process, which obviously gives us that insight and knowledge. Then you get to know them like far better and understand exactly what they're about and what their skills are, so that you can market them effectively and actually represent them well. So we found that candidates have gravitated towards us because they've seen the benefit of that. Because we've taken the time and got to know them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, I can recognise that there are sometimes some limitations, and when you talk about candidates that might want to cross over and sort of step outside our niche, and yeah, that can happen. But in my opinion, sort of sticking with sticking your flag in the sand and being like, this is me, this is what I do, the benefits outweigh that. And I think sometimes you just got to recognize, if a candidate goes in a different direction, then okay, good luck to you, all the best, but that's not really something I can support with, and I wouldn't want to spread myself and then not be true to what I'm banging on about and my brand and my whole ethos. So yeah, that can happen. It's a fair point, but as I say, I think the benefits outweigh the negatives.
You don't want to water down what you're about. I totally agree with you. So do you think that recruiters who are watching this and listening to this are thinking, well, I'm kind of being pulled from pillar to post here, that the advantages of going into a niche market, do you think it's too late for somebody to look? Do you need to have specific skills to become a niche specialist in recruitment, or do you think anybody can do it?
No, I absolutely believe anyone can do it. I think this strategy or this approach is easier than if you have been in a situation where you've got X amount of jobs, and then like they're spreading across a number of different sectors, a number of different verticals. You've got you're under a lot of pressure to send countless like CVs across a number of different jobs, and you quite kind of lose yourself in the, oh god, which spec am I dealing with now, and you've got to then immerse yourself and try and get your head around that, and then move on to another one, and then an hour later it's something else, and then you get thrown another job at 3 o'clock, and for me that's harder. That's a lot harder.
Yeah, you're a busy fool, aren't you? And you're just creating these talent pools then that aren't going to go anywhere. So I can see that from a sort of business growth perspective, the opportunity to know that niche, you've got a future talent pool there, which is what a lot of people are talking about clearly. And
yeah, I mean, a huge part of it is actually almost reversing things. So you invest huge amount when you sort of identify your niche, and you're like, right, this is me, this is it, whatever that looks like. You then spend huge amounts of time, obviously, candidate pooling right within your specialism. So when the business comes in, you've got them sat there on like, you can sort of picture little benches ready to go. So you're not sort of down in tools and having to do a lot more of the traditional resource, like, let's start resourcing for this. You should have already sort of done that, and that's kind of the benefit of being a specialist. And then you're ahead of a lot of your competitors as well by doing that.
Definitely. I mean, one thing that's really, just listening to what you're talking about there, is one word that really seems to scream out of my head is that you're talking about customers, because you're talking about this journey of a candidate that you might place them a few times in their career, but actually that candidate will then become your client, and then they will then refer you internally to their new business.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm totally on board with the whole niche. So that leads very nicely then into this business coach business that you now have, and that you've really sort of focused on for this year and going forward. So the sort of first of all, who's your audience? So who do you think would benefit from coming to a business coach like yourself? And what do they need to consider from their perspective as to what they're looking to get from you?
Yeah, so the coaching, it's basically a 6-month program that I've designed, and I think this is a really important thing about one-to-one coaching, is that it's adaptable. And what I'd like to think is what I offer is we would, you know, weight it on what the needs are of my clients. So I think it's mainly directed at recruiters now that are kind of, they've, however long they've had in the career, that doesn't really matter. What's important is that they're itching and they're continuously looking and dreaming about going and doing it themselves, but there's a fear. So the coaching is designed just to kind of break down all these barriers, really. So not only does it cover the key, you know, the key strategies around the niche and mapping that out and getting the numbers right, and really sort of honing that down, and get, you know, making sure that that's identified before you get going, but also the practicalities about setting up in business, and like, what do I need and what don't I need and what do I need to sort out before I can go, and just literally having somebody there every step of the way to go through all these things. And that's what I mean about tailoring, because obviously some people will have had some exposure to business, others will be totally green, and then others might need a lot more coaching around like the whole attraction marketing style recruitment, niche recruitment. And so we would obviously load it into that if that's what's needed. And I think that's what's quite special about one-to-one. And of course you've got to make it's got to fit right with me as well, and your attitudes and the way you work and your approach. I think that has to really align for a coaching relationship to work. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm working with people for the first time.
And I think one thing that, you know, this is what the benefit of COVID has been for you, that you've sort of realised that you've got so much to offer, because like you say, you've walked the walk, you understand what it takes to become a successful niche business owner. And there's probably never been a better time for recruiters to really think about this, because when you look at risk versus return, if you look around your employer and think, you know, we've made loads of redundancies, I'm not sure my desk is safe. Actually, if you are in charge of your own destiny and you really believe in yourself and your niche, then you can actually, this is the best time to set up. You're never going to get another opportunity like this to go for it. So I think that's why I mean, I can see it all the time on my timeline when, you know, people are changing their job post to, you know, setting up on their own. And I think it's absolutely wonderful for the sector, and that's where true entrepreneurship comes from. So I think, you know, all these tips are absolutely brilliant. And, you know, I think your testimony will resonate. It might not resonate for everybody. Certainly those that maybe are, you know, the one-stop shop style recruitment, and that's absolutely fine. It's not one size fits all, but I think there's definitely going to be a good audience for you here. So one of the other things that I think unites you and me is the fact that we're both working mums, trying to kind of juggle everything and be successful at both. Yeah. So what would your top tips be to ensure that you achieve business success, but also personal contentment?
Well, that's an interesting one. And do you know what? The reality is that since setting up in business myself, I have been able to manage family life so much better, which you'd think that would be the opposite. But I think removing the pressure of the job and the, you know, you've got to be here, you've got to be there, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, and the sort of boundaries within that, which is all fine, because obviously there are other pressures in business, financial pressures being the main one. But for me, I've actually found the juggle and the, you know, managing everything easier since going in business myself. And I think that's just simply because I fit the business around the children. I mean, I started this business with a 4-month-old baby. So, you know, I fit the business around the children. And so it sort of started that way. And don't get me wrong, there's that, you know, the older, my youngest is 3.5 now, nearly 4. So, you know, it's evolved, and I had to sort of set things up and everything. But in the main, I actually did it that way. I mean, in terms of my tips, I think you've got to be disciplined and organised. You can't sort of drift. The day can't drift. You've got to kind of like allocate and grab the time that you've got, where there's an empty house and everyone's at school or nurse. It's like, yeah, work time. So don't get me wrong, you've got to have that structure. But I am a firm believer in making it work for you and your family. And I think that's a, you know, if you're going to do it for yourself and you're going to go down this road, why not make it work for you and make it worthwhile in more ways than one? Another tip I'll give you, moving further down the line, is outsource. Like, we've all got our strengths and weaknesses. Outsource your weaknesses when you can, when the time's right.
Definitely, absolutely great. And I advocate every single one of those. And I think very early on in my business, someone said to me, because I was just I was just all over the place. My kids were really small at the time, because I think it was when I'd had my second. And they said, "Are you working for your business, or is your business working for you?" And it was just this eureka moment. And I thought, do you know what? That's absolutely true. And you are in charge of your own destiny. So those are all brilliant tips. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've been a wonderful guest, as I knew you would be. And I think that there will be people watching and listening to this that it will make them really stop and think. So we'll make sure all your contact information is on there, and make sure you give Liz a too. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.